Have my SIPs going on. It's, I think, currently about 1.7 lakhs of SIPs. So the wealth corpus is now about 6.1, 6.2 CR. What helps is that if you have a few years of expenses already in the bag, capable, I have the ability and I have the desire to work for the next 15 more years. अगर वो 2 लाख रुपए भी हो गया, 1 लाख भी हो गया, no heavens are going to fall on me.
Everyone, I am so excited to welcome Shankar sir back on this video. Shankar sir, I would now like to call is a full-time YouTuber who actively works on his channel, and he is a financial educator and himself has worked with ET Money before. I would highly recommend you to check out Shankar sir's channel if you've already not seen it. And with that, sir, thank you so much for taking out time and welcome back, sir.
No, no, my honor, Jotpreet. It's always good to be back and talking to you. Thank you so much.
Amazing, sir. Amazing. So, sir, I've kind of thought this interview in like three, four different phases. So, first, sir, let's talk about a little on like your journey of being a YouTuber or like being self-employed since you left ET Money, and how has that? So, sir, I wanted to ask, so how has that transition happened? Earlier, what was making a video like versus now what your model is? Like, how
Right.
has that evolved?
Yeah, I think it's a world in itself. When I look back at what I was doing 5 years back and what I'm doing now, I'm actually very grateful of having that opportunity. I think a lot of people don't get that opportunity, right, of
Hmm.
being able to move from a salaried tag to a self-employed kind of a tag. So the salaried tag is something I held for 20 years, right,
Hmm.
from 2022 से लेके 2000 sorry 2002 से लेके 2022 तक. So it's a good 20 years that I was a salaried person. Uh, I think the turning point for me came in 2020, smack in the middle of COVID, when I picked up YouTubing for the ET Money channel. I was employed with ET Money then, and I did that for a couple of years. And yeah, the time was pretty good, right, to do YouTubing when everyone was at home. So as a result, the channel grew by some 300,000 subscribers. A lot of goodwill was achieved there. People would recognize me more. I became the de facto face for ET Money during that period, and that basically showed me the power of content in today's world. So I made that decision in 2021 itself that maybe I should do this on my own. I was virtually pleading with my guys in ET Money कि मेरे को जाने दो, but things were so good that these guys were like, नहीं यार थोड़ा wait कर ले, थोड़ा wait कर ले. So finally in uh, August of 2022, I shed the tag of being a salaried person, and November 2022 is when I started my own channel. Uh, the big difference is that when I was with ET Money, a lot of the content was based on mutual funds because
Hmm.
that's what ET Money as an organization was doing. But when I started my own, I had this very clear path in my head that um, I don't want to talk about specific mutual funds or specific stocks. There was a licensing thing also. The regulation was very clear that you can't do all kinds of funny things. The second was I wanted to help people with investing strategies because I think that's where people are very weak at. They generally pick up some mutual fund, pick up some stocks without realizing what they are exactly doing. So that became a thought process for me. The third was I want to do it in English. Even now, a lot of people say मातृभाषा में हिंदी में क्यों नहीं करते and all that stuff. But there was a logic behind it. Okay, number one, I realized that India में the English delivery is actually on the lower end.
Hmm.
There are too many channels in Hindi at the moment as compared to English with respect to investing and finance. That was one. The second thing I realized that with English, the market that comes in is more of the South and the West belt, which
Hmm.
is actually a slightly affluent belt as compared to North and East. So that becomes an opportunity. So in case I want to kind of monetize better, I want to do something, I'll be actually, the target group would be the South and the West belt. So that became another thing. And the final thing was I wanted to target the beginner plus market. So not people who are coming and saying कि sir SIP क्या होता है, mutual fund क्या होता है. I wanted a beginner plus kind of a market. So in that case also it becomes, the material which I was reading
Hmm.
was all annual reports and transcripts and credit rating reports and other kinds of material which is available, articles, etc. And everything is in English.
Hmm.
So to take that in English, then translate it into Hindi, A, the effort is too much, and B, I can make a lot of mistakes.
Hmm.
So I didn't want to get into that path also. So basis of this, so I'm telling you this because for any budding YouTuber or content creator, understanding the bigger picture is very important, which they kind of miss out on. So
Hmm.
content creation is not about purely creating the content. You have to also decide for whom are you creating the content. In what format are you creating this content? Again, talking of format, I had these choices, right? I could have made the 1 minute reels like Sharon used to make massively during that COVID period, and he got a lot of success out of it. Or I could have settled for a longer format, which is what I currently do.
Hmm.
Earlier, I used to do 8-10 minute videos. Then I moved to 15-16 minutes videos. आजकल तो मैं बोलता ही रहता हूँ मतलब it's like 25-30 minute video. I don't care, because I have an important point to say in my videos. So if the other person is impatient enough and can't listen, it's his or her loss. It's not going to be my loss, right?
Hmm.
So now the video length has actually increased to about 25 minutes on an average. Uh, so this is how the kind of journey moved in. And then I think the third phase is now where after getting my uh, SEBI registration as a research analyst, I'm able to talk about specific sectors and specific stocks also. So now
Hmm.
I'm kind of layering everything together. I've also changed the style. Earlier, मैं अच्छा powder water लगा के proper sofa पे बैठ के करतार, my videographer would come in. There would be an editor who would come and edit. I mean, who would edit those videos.
Hmm.
I used to ship it off. So every video used to cost me about 15,000 rupees to make. But now I just sit on my desk, I just start the camera and record it. I do the editing myself, doesn't take much of time.
Hmm.
And now what was initially a cost of some 70,000-80,000 rupees per month has now been brought down to 1,000 rupees a month. So I use a simple software called Tela,
Hmm.
and it records the screen, it records me, it has editing facility. I put everything together, and I have my video ready within the same day itself. So that's how a lot of things have
That's
changed
great,
over
sir.
this.
I think one more thing that as you were speaking, sir, I think with AI, like I've seen people kind of make animations also with Claude and all that.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
I think
it's very
that will
useful.
also, like, as an individual creator, will be like a huge boost. Like you can create animations in some specific parts, and you can
Yeah.
like
So
add those
today,
to it.
so AI is very useful, Jotpreet. And for me, for someone like me, in a lot of cases.
Hmm.
Uh, so for example, if I want to do research, what I now do is, and let's say it's a company research, right? So I'm able to put in everything, including the annual reports, the transcripts, the presentations, everything goes into Notebook LM. And Notebook LM processes all that information. It gives me something called a mind map. And from mind map, I can clearly understand that, has, how can everything be segregated? So the mind map would say business model. It'll say product and services. It'll say risks. It'll say valuations. It'll say something else,
Hmm.
and it gives you a very clear idea as to how to look at this particular company. And then, earlier I was just taking that dump of information and trying to read it and everything. But now I ask a lot of questions
Hmm.
to Notebook element. It's able to kind of process that information and take it out for me in exactly the way I want it. So that's one use. Second, the one that you often see, the thumbnails which I make,
Hmm. Yeah.
it's completely AI.
We
You
discussed
don't
last
need a
time.
thumbnail editor now. You can just talk to AI. Even today's video,
Yeah.
the one where I'm kind of climbing up the mountain
Uh,
trying to reach 40 crores, completely AI. I didn't touch Canva at all. Otherwise, I used to do Canva earlier. But now for these kinds of thumbnails, you don't need to touch any other software. You can just use AI to build it up. Which is scary because Canva is a part of that SaaS products, which are there in the world,
hmm.
which wherein the valuations are coming down rapidly because of AI.
Yeah.
And while I was making it, I realized it that I am also one of the persons responsible for this because I have replaced the SaaS product with AI completely to make my thumbnails now. So yeah, the world is changing too fast, and it's too confusing at the moment.
Yeah, I come to AI, sir. I also have a section on AI and like how it integrates. But just to kind of wrap up your journey, so one question I would ask, and let me be a little selfish. What would you suggest, given what you know now, sir? for somebody who's like 25, 26, 27, who's earning any salary, like 1 lakh, maybe lesser or maybe higher, how is it, is it possible to transition into something like a content thing full time? Should they do it? Should they not do it? And if they want to do it, how should they kind of transition themselves into it?
Yeah, so your objective should be very clear. That why
Hmm.
do you want to do it in the first place? Let me put some examples here.
Yeah.
One of the things that you can do as a young person is the way you can look at content is to say that the next time you walk into an interview, the interview should know you beforehand.
Hmm.
So if
Okay.
you have that kind of a mindset कि मैंने इतना अच्छा content बनाया है and I've kind of posted it at the right places, let's say
Hmm.
for example LinkedIn for example, that the person who's interviewing me, as soon as he looks at my revenue, he said, अरे इसको तो मैं जानता हूँ, I follow this guy.
Yeah. Okay.
So that gives a different appeal to your entire resume. And when you I mean the interview will actually be proud of meeting you rather than the other way around, right? So that's one way of looking at it. The second is for your own career growth you can look at, for example, if you're, let's say, a CFA level 1 level 2 kind of a person who wants to get into equity research,
Hmm.
then building content uh, can really be helpful. You have to be slightly building that content over Twitter will not help you.
Hmm.
You've put in some posts, some 20 posts per day, you're putting in 10 posts. That might not be very helpful. But if you had done the same thing over Substack, for example, wherein you're running a newsletter with, let's say, 5,000 subscribers.
Hmm.
So then when you walk into a AMC for an interview, as a junior fund manager or anything, or if you walk into any kind of a setup, which requires such people who are into equity research, you would be given a preference. So always link content creation to a bigger cause. That why do you want to do it and how it can help you in the future. That will clarify things and it'll also help you in understanding, which particular platform to look at. A lot of people run to Instagram nowadays,
Hmm.
but I've got very few success stories of how a regular 30-year-old, 25-year-old who has a job at the moment and loves to do that job, how has he or she been able to use Instagram to their advantage? I have better examples of actually Substack and LinkedIn with me.
Okay, so you mean, can you just give one example for the audience as to like they started something on LinkedIn and that helped them get a job? Can you just give that example? What story you know about?
So specifically, I don't know anyone ऐसा मतलब
Huh.
कि
Okay.
ये मिला और job मिला, because I know of only people who started this way and they have now made it into a full-time occupation of their own, that kind of a stuff. That's the only examples that I know. But there are people. So for example, there is someone named Jaskirat Singh Gujral. So he's Financial Adda. So that's
Yeah,
his
I think I
page,
see him on Instagram.
so Instagram, LinkedIn, that's where he posts. So what he did is he started into content. So he
Hmm.
was posting Instagram, and his expectation was that brands will come in and they would give him a lot of money. वो सब उतना हो नहीं पाया. So he was actually quite upset. So about 2-3 years back, I went in. I said, hey, this doesn't seem to be working for you. So why don't we try something else? So he got that message. So what he did is he used all those people, those contacts that he has over LinkedIn and Instagram. He used that as a top funnel.
Hmm.
And now he has a very decent mutual fund distribution business of his own.
Okay.
So he was able to convert it into a full-time career for himself. It took him time. I think he's now into his eighth year with Financial Adda. And now he has a flourishing mutual fund business that he's now using. So that's one of the examples that I have at the moment.
Okay. Okay. And so, like, how do you suggest if they want to get into, say, content or building a business full time, then, like, how should they look at it? Should they, because one thing that always comes in my mind as well, so if you are already employed somewhere, if you talk about certain stocks and all, that might not reflect very well with your employer, might get, and I've seen not just myself,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people having those concerns or maybe, kind of help this thing kind of keeping them away. So, do you think that is
So
valid or,
So, Jotpreet, it's a very valid point that you said, right? That if you are working somewhere
hmm,
and you're doing something that is very relatable to that, then obviously, people frown upon it. But
okay.
what I've realized with content is that don't look at content purely as uh, that you know something or you're researching something and you're delivering it across. There
Hmm.
are incredible formats
Hmm.
of delivering content. So I'll give you a couple of examples. I'll give you non-finance examples, okay?
Yeah.
Uh, like there's this young man, 23, 24 years old, probably. His name is Sobit Tamang,
Okay.
Sobit Tamang. Okay.
Hmm.
What the Sobit does is that he is on those platforms where you can talk to strangers kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? And he's just a singer, he sings well. And his format is that he would start singing an English song and suddenly he will mash it up with a Hindi song.
Hmm. Okay.
ओके सो इसमें कोई खास बात नहीं है इंग्लिश टू हिंदी मैशअप करना कोई बहुत बड़ी चीज नहीं है बट द कंटेंट द मोस्ट द सेक्सी पार्ट ऑफ द कंटेंट इज दैट ही रिकॉर्ड द रिएक्शन ऑफ द पीपल हु आर लिसनिंग टू हिम
Hmm. Got it. Got it.
तो
Yeah.
सो स्पेशली इफ इट्स एन इंडियन पर्सन
Uh,
वो अचानक इंग्लिश सुन रहा है बोर हो रहा है उसको कुछ समझ तो आ नहीं रहा है
uh,
एंड सडनली इट टर्न्स इनटू अ हिंदी सॉन्ग a glow comes in their face, right?
hmm.
Uh, and that's what his video is about.
Hmm.
You can call it pranking or whatever, but it's a way. I'll give you another example. This one I really love. There's a gentleman named Mike Boyd,
Hmm. Okay.
Mike. Mike Boyd is Boyd. And what Mike Boyd does is he is someone who captures his learning process.
Okay. As.
Okay, so for example,
Hmm.
give you an example. Uh, he wants to learn how to solve the Rubik's Cube in less than 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, he has no idea how to do it. So
Hmm.
he starts at, the timer is at 0, 0, okay, 0 hours, 0 minutes. And he would first start with trying something on the Rubik's Cube. He'll not be able to figure it out. Then he reads some books. Then he'll figure out, अरे इसमें एक algorithm होता है. So let
Hmm.
me try the algorithm. And then over days, he's practicing that algorithm
Hmm.
of how to do it. And eventually, after putting in about 15 hours of effort spread over, let's say, a week, he finally gets to a position where he's able to solve that 2 minute Rubik's Cube. I mean, the Rubik's Cube
Ah,
within 2 minutes.
okay.
So he has captured that process of him learning over
Hmm.
a 15-minute video.
Hmm.
So actually, the series which I run now, Jotpreet, it's called Learn on the Go.
Yeah.
Okay, the last 30 odd videos I've done on my channel, it's called Learn on the Go. And here also I'm doing pretty much what Mike Boyd does in a finance space. So more than half of the videos are things which I have probably read or watched somewhere else. And I'm adding my own understanding of it, my own twist to it, my own flavor to it,
Hmm.
and repurposing it into a slightly different video.
Hmm.
It's not slightly different, it's pretty different from what the original video was. But
Okay.
then, the original inspiration actually came from something which I read or something which I watched very recently. So that's what Learn on the Go is all about. So what I'm trying to mark at here is that a regular employee, a regular salaried person can do different things as
Hmm.
long as, it's a very differentiated product that he's coming up with.
Hmm.
It's not, your regular market nifty down है मैं आपको बताता हूँ क्यों down है.
Yeah.
That's not really going to work. And if it doesn't work, obviously your company will come and say, यार ये कुछ काम वाम तो कर नहीं रहा है. Instead of kind of helping anyone, it's actually taking away time. And we feel that you are using up our time, for your own personal pursuits. So those kinds of thoughts will unnecessarily come in. So if you do something else, something completely differentiated, then I don't think anyone would really have that problem. In fact, especially if they enjoy what you're doing, then I don't think any company will say कि ये सब मत करो करके.
Got it, got it. So that is great. I hope it's also inspirational for anybody listening or thinking about these things inspired by you, your figures, and thankfully you brought these things to light. But now I know
No, no,
for a
please do
longest
watch
time
those
people have been
channels.
like, yeah, people like even though they're making money or whatever, they're like very shy, especially in India. Probably much more taboo than the Western countries where people are very shy about numbers and stuff. So I get
Correct.
this is really helpful. let's like change some gears and talk a little bit more about, say, financial independence. And I think that's also a hot theme. My mind and a lot of my friend circles as well keep thinking this. I keep seeing on YouTube, it's also has kind of blown up quite a bit. So
Right.
on that front, I want to ask. I remember you talked a lot about your 3 by 3 grid that you
Hmm.
used to follow. You've kind of now showed that in many interviews. So has there been any change in your investing format, investing style for that, or is it broadly similar only what you've told people? Okay, this is how I kind of look at my SIPs or my investments in mutual funds specifically.
It's still the same format which I use. There's been no change to that in terms of a structure. Certain things have become a lot more concrete within it. Okay.
Okay.
I'll share maybe a
Yeah.
couple here. I have I'm actually more of a fan of actively managed funds
Hmm.
than passively managed funds. Okay.
Okay.
And I think this realization has come in more now. I mean, it was always there, but it's come in more now because when I look at the performance of the active managers, at least the ones which I have, those SIPs which have now crossed 7, 8, 9, 10 years, I've realized that they have done a lot better than the benchmarks.
Hmm.
They've done 1.5%, 2% better than their benchmarks. Almost all of them, actually.
Okay.
So that's the data which I have,
Hmm.
that they have been doing better than the benchmark. I don't care what SPIVA report tells me based on the US or whatever. That's the report everyone talks about, right? The
Yeah.
SPIVA
Yeah.
report which says that fund managers don't know their job and all that
86%
stuff. हाँ
underperform.
हाँ एग्जैक्टली करेक्ट बट मेरे साथ तो ऐसा हुआ ही नहीं.
Hmm.
So I will run with the data which I have in front of me, that active managers have been doing well. The second thing that came in is very recently when there was massive volatility in the market over the last 18, 20 months. It's still there. And some fund managers took that call that, hey, I want to preserve capital for
Hmm.
my unit holders, and I'm not going to splurge money at the time of high valuations or at the time of uncertainty.
Hmm.
uh, it kind of connects very well with the way I also like to operate. That every day is like a risk reward equation being thrown at you.
Hmm.
So if you see that the chances of you making returns is lower and the risks are higher, then no one logical is going to invest money during that particular period, right?
Yeah.
But the index fund, especially some actively managed funds also, but an index fund doesn't have the choice. If
Hmm.
it receives the money, it has to invest that money within the next 1, 2, 3 days, right? It
Yeah.
can't park that money somewhere. And I realized that that's a problem because there is going to be absolutely no preservation of capital from this particular thing. So this is a big change that happened. Number two change which happened is that I realized how volatile factor funds can be,
Hmm.
uh, especially momentum funds, alpha funds, even low vol funds. I mean, almost every factor basically, they have their good times and their bad times. So if you look at the momentum factor, the
Yeah.
last 20 odd months have been bad for them.
Negative. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Great.
it's still 18%, 15 to 18% returns for me over the last 4, 5 year kind of a period, which is on par with how even market cap funds have done.
Hmm.
But I've seen a period where I bought something at an NAV of 10, went up to 25, and then dropped down to 16, and now I think it's somewhere around 19 or something. So 10 to 25 and then 25 to 16
Yeah.
are like two shocks. One is a pleasant shock and one is a very horrible shock, right? So I realize how volatile it is. So I'm not kind of pumping too much into it. I
Hmm.
just keep it as a adventure money kind of a thing, saying that ठीक है जब बढ़ेगा तो बहुत अच्छा बढ़ेगा. So let
Yeah.
me be patient for this particular thing. But I've kept it slightly away from the core strategy. So the
Hmm.
core strategy now is more around your large cap, mid cap, small cap kind of a thing. It's more around actively managed funds now. Even
Okay.
within actively managed funds, I go with people who have been into it for long. So one of the first things I now see before returns is I go down to the fund manager page and I see ये fund manager कितने साल से था. So, I want to know whether this guy has seen the ups and downs or not. And
Yeah.
a lot of people make this mistake. So, for example, there'll be some fund. Last 3 years have been very good. Okay, they'll say, "Arey, iska trailing 3 years is very good." So, they'll go for it. But what they will miss out is the fact that the fund manager who had run the fund for the last 3 years, he has left. He or she has
Yeah,
left.
yeah, yeah, got it, got it. So the person who was responsible
हाँ.
behind the
तो
process has actually no longer.
जब वही चला गया, तो
हाँ.
आप किस बेसिस पे बोल रहे हो कि मैं इसमें इन्वेस्ट करूंगा?
Hmm.
The entire basis of that thing is gone, right?
Yeah.
So this is the
I
first
think
thing I
that
now
is
see.
one of the pitfalls in mutual fund investing because people kind of don't want to think about it or like want it to be very hands off. They don't go into these depths कि ये investing
हाँ.
style था, maybe now this person is a different style of investor.
गा,
वो सब
गाड़ी
सोचते
कौन
ही नहीं
चला
है.
रहा है?
हाँ,
गाड़ी
like
कौन
that
चला
we
रहा है वो
stop
नहीं पता.
thinking.
हाँ,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's what is so these are the changes which have come in. So for example, I did this video also. It was a 40-minute video wherein I took three fund managers, known
Yeah.
guys, Shailesh Rajbhan, Parag Parikh's Rajiv Thakkar, and Motilal Oswal's Niket Shah. And I think Niket ji has now moved away from Motilal Oswal
Hmm.
asset management company. He's moved into Motilal Oswal something else.
Okay.
Okay, so he's not now there. He's not there now.
He's not managing the fund. Okay.
He's not managing the fund. And the Motilal Oswal Mid Cap Fund is one of those funds which has a very volatile present.
Hmm.
It did extremely well, and it has not done extremely well for the last 1 year, right? So it's been an up and down kind of a thing. But the main construct of that the scheme, that guy is no longer there.
Hmm.
So now it's a case of uncertainty for me कि क्या होगा इस फंड का.
It's a different bet now. The manager's
It's a
style,
different bet.
what
Exactly.
calls they take. Yeah.
You're
Got it.
betting on someone who's been given this fund and he has not done anything so far with this
Hmm.
fund, right? So it's completely betting for that guy. So this is something which I definitely look at. Even the other name I said, Sailesh Rajbhan, people don't know much of this gentleman. They should know him because he's the person who's been there with Nippon Mutual Fund for the last, I think, 20 plus years.
Hmm.
And 2003, 2004, I think that's when he joined. If you do a sort of all equity funds which have crossed 20 years, the one on the top is the Nippon India Pharma Fund,
Okay.
and he's the one who manages that fund. Within large caps, your average large cap fund over the last 20 years would have done, or whatever, 10 years would have done about 12 odd percent. And this man has consistently delivered 15 plus percent.
Yeah.
So the difference between number one and number two, I think, is about 3%.
Over a 20-year timeline, that is a huge, huge
और
difference.
वो भी 20 साल के ऊपर.
Ah, that's a huge difference in
So that's a
age.
massive difference, correct?
Yeah.
So this is the guy,
Hmm.
who's
Got
been
it.
managing this fund for 20 plus years. So if I have money, I would take a bet on this guy कि वो 20
Hmm.
साल तो कर दिया सर ने, और 10 साल कर लेंगे ना, क्या प्रॉब्लम है
So,
ऐसे
sir,
करके.
on this front, do you like? I want to ask, like, how do you review or make changes to a mutual fund portfolio? Say you now know, for example, you were invested in some fund, and now you get to know, okay, maybe this person changed. So, like, how often do you take those calls, and then B, how do you decide, okay, if I move away from here, where do I put that money? Or you don't
हाँ.
exit it at all, or maybe you just adjust the new inflows. So, like,
No,
what is
no.
your
So,
process
no, no.
there?
I earlier I was not exiting. Okay,
Hmm.
be honest here. I was not exiting. मुझे लगा कि चल जाएगा. But now I've come to realize कि नहीं. मतलब
Hmm.
that's not a clever strategy at all. So the recent ones which I exited were three, four schemes of Axis Mutual Fund.
Okay.
Uh, so Axis is something which had an excellent run from 2017 till 2019. They were number one across everything. It was the growth period which was going on, and they were doing a good job. Chandresh was, I think, the CEO at that time,
Hmm.
and since then it's not been that good. So in the last 5 odd years, they have changed their CIO, I think CIO or CEO thrice.
Okay.
They've changed, which is a lot actually,
Hmm.
right? Normally these CIOs, they are there for a good 10
One
years,
cycle at
five.
least, one full
हाँ, मतलब
market
रहते
cycle.
हैं वो लोग.
Hmm.
So if you have three different guys over the last 5 odd years, then definitely something is completely wrong here. So I was not ready to take a bet on it again. I think recently another change in CIO has happened. So
Okay.
I was not ready to take a bet. So I liquidated those schemes. They had obviously made money for me, but not as much as compared to, I mean, lower than the benchmark actually.
Yeah.
So I moved away from those funds. It was not a question of what was the performance. It is the level of uncertainty, and there was no clear logic in my head as to why am I continuing with this particular scheme,
Hmm.
because of all these changes which were happening. So I moved away and I reallocated that money into one of those other schemes,
Within your
where
grid, okay, a growth or a value.
in the grid, as well as the fund manager is a established one. We know what he's up to and all that stuff. So you can give those guys a few more years, for developing things. So that's the change which I did. I use this Power Up Money app, which
Hmm.
I'm kind of associated with. तो मैंने वो खोल के देखा, उसमें से थोड़ा हिंट मिल जाता है कि which ones are the in-form funds, out-of-form funds, etc.
Got it.
And then I took a call by myself कि क्या हट सकता है. So that's how I did it.
Got it. Got it. So, and sir, from your corpus, since you are self-employed, so I don't know if you call yourself financially independent or you call yourself retired early. Do you withdraw from your mutual funds at the moment, or are you still in the growth stage where you want to park more money, have it grow for a
I
few more
I
years?
don't I don't withdraw Jotpreet from my
Oh,
MF. मतलब जरूरत नहीं पड़ा है ऐसे करके.
that's great. Okay.
The only time I would have done some changes is if there was some other requirement to say
Mhm.
my sister was buying a house, she needs some money, तो थोड़ा सा
Got it.
काट के दिया उधर, but not a significant number at all.
Got
So this is so the mutual fund thing is where I have my SIPs going on. It's I think currently about 1.7 lakhs of SIPs. So that goes in every month into.
Got it. So you're still in that wealth building mode with mutual funds, basically. You're not taking it.
So the
Got it.
wealth corpus is now about 6.1, 6.2 CR,
Hmm.
and mutual funds is about 1.5. Sorry, stocks is about 1.5.
Got it.
So
Oh,
I
amazing.
think 7.6 as
Okay,
each.
I was kind of gearing it in a sense that you're now financially independent. Do you depend on your corpus for income, or are you
वो
still
नहीं पता है मेरे
corpus
को, इंडिपेंडेंस का
independent?
तो पता नहीं है मुझे. बट I so the way I'm calculating this independence part is also slightly different.
Okay.
So it's not about how much of money you have, the corpus you have. It's basically I'm doing the reverse calculation
Hmm.
that if I were to retire today, how
Hmm.
much can I spend every month
Hmm.
along with an
Okay.
inflation put in,
Uh,
and my money won't run out till the age of 90.
got it. Got it.
So,
Okay. So you're
so if
taking
I
the
do that math,
corpus defined and the expenses variable
हाँ हाँ हाँ
instead of the
हाँ.
other
So I
way.
find it easier. So
Okay.
if I take this plus if I add my EPF and PPF also, which I'm definitely going to withdraw very soon.
Hmm.
So that comes to about, let's say, 8.5 CR. So that becomes your corpus base.
Yeah.
And then what are the other things that and let's assume I've retired, which means I'm not going to make any active income.
Hmm. Correct.
Okay. So then what are the other variables for you? It's the inflation, it's how much of returns will you earn from this corpus that you already have, how long will you survive,
Correct.
right? So these are your main variables that come in. And then when you do the math around it, and obviously what is your expenses per month? So I did this calculation. If I use a inflation, I use a return percentage of 10%.
Hmm.
That's what I prefer to use. So, a lot of people they put in 12%, 13%, 14%. I don't think that's very sustainable. So I keep it at 10%. This 10% is post-tax. So you
Yeah.
have to
That's
figure
what
out
I
the
mean.
tax part also,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
post-tax is 10%. Now, inflation is the tricky one, especially after this latest tweet that had come in, the podcast which had come in, Sandeep Jetwani
Yeah.
ka. Uh, he had taken 9% as inflation. I generally take 7% as inflation.
Hmm.
So if I take my 8.5 CR, I put a 10% return on it, and I put a 7% inflation on it. The mathematics says that I can spend 3.5 lakhs per month
Hmm.
starting today.
That's great.
So that's how I do my calculation. यही
Got
अगर मैं 9% कर देता हूँ ना, फिर हवा निकल जाती है,
Yeah,
because
yeah. Because then you're
then
basically not,
that
the
number
corpus
comes
is not
down
growing.
pretty much.
Yeah. That's where the math is.
Exactly,
I think
exactly,
that's also
correct.
a
The
very
corpus is
good,
barely growing.
uh, I think that's a very good new video idea. Maybe, sir, if you can explore it. Like people like me who like always think of financial independence, there's like a different lens. कि लोग
नहीं
सोचते हैं
किया होगा,
आज
मैंने
एक
वीडियो
लाख
बनाया होगा, आप ध्यान से देखते नहीं।
अच्छा ओके।
आई एम सेइंग मैंने वीडियो बनाया होगा, आपने ध्यान से देखा नहीं मेरा वीडियोस।
ओके
No,
आई
no.
विल
So definitely I would have explained it somewhere in the videos. Uh, the thing about videos, Jotpreet, is that uh, it's always in bits and pieces. You will never get a video which has everything inside it because it's next to impossible to make it.
या
But ये reverse calculation wala, I've definitely explained it in one of the videos. In fact, I've done only one webinar in my entire life, actually, Jotpreet. I'm also a slightly introverted person, so I don't like to come on live, forums at all. So the Power Up guys forced me कि नहीं नहीं एक webinar करो करो करके. So I did it, and it was actually पहले मुझे लगा कि कितने लोग आएंगे, 100-200 लोग आएंगे, ठीक है करके. So when I looked at the number of registrations, there were 3,800 registrations.
वाओ।
So I got my first fright of my life. And then I started the presentation.
So, sir, one thing I think which is also way more recent, probably more recency bias. But then, how do you think of dealing with this sequence of returns risk? Like maybe last 1 2 years, markets have not performed, and say you are somebody who's dependent on your corpus for maybe say withdrawing the income. Then, how do you deal with these times wherein there is very muted returns or probably negative returns just after maybe you've kind of taken that call? So, like, how do you kind of think about this sequence of returns risk, which is I think kind of under discussed in all these
Yeah,
videos
it's
and all this
it's
content?
not it's obviously not uh, a comfortable period, but it's something you have to expect.
Hmm.
So if you are expecting that, you're going to get a linear return out of equities, then it's definitely not possible.
Yeah.
So you're kind of looking at two different worlds, right? So one world is where there's going to be a lot of volatility in the returns coming in, but your expenses is not going to be volatile. Your expenses
Hmm.
are going to be pretty linear.
Correct.
So I think the first step is obviously your expectation set itself, that there would be certain times where uh, the ratio between my return and my expenditure would not be the same. It will also
Hmm.
kind of vary from time to time. So that's one. And the second is to keep that eventuality in your numbers also. So for example, if you have, let's say, 5 years of expenses available with you in your portfolio, then more often than not, the thing will rectify over time.
Hmm.
Because you would have seen, if you go with all the history that we have, that whenever the market drops by, let's say, 20%, and generally, a bear market is only 20%.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's a very rare scenario where it's gone below 20.
Yeah. I think
The
like
rare
2008 and
scenario being,
1992 would
हाँ,
be the two
हाँ,
periods
हाँ.
where we have that
वो
data. Yeah.
1990, 2020 भी मतलब
It was
30%
a
गिरा था.
quick recovery. It was a
It was
V-shaped
very quick
recovery.
recovery,
Ah.
right? So it's generally only 20% is the drop from a
Hmm.
portfolio perspective. Okay. So, so basically, if you have a few years of expenses available with you, so firstly, it's a 20% drop. And secondly, the average time it takes for it to come back is generally around 12 to 24 months, actually around 24 months.
Hmm.
तो अपना भी टाइम आ गया है वापस, क्योंकि 20 महीने से डाउन
Oh
था.
yeah, exactly.
तो
This
बस
is a
तो
very good example. Maybe it's not a very
हाँ,
bear market scenario की बहुत losses है,
करेक्ट,
but it has kind of
फ्लैटिश.
like थोड़ा ऊपर थोड़ा नीचे and then like
हाँ,
लोगों को it has frustrated a lot of people.
करेक्ट
Like in the
करेक्ट करेक्ट
conversations, it has also reflected with my friends कि returns नहीं
करेक्ट
आ रहे, I'll move to gold and all that
करेक्ट.
stuff.
So even with my money, my corpus, it's remained pretty static over the last
Hmm.
20 odd months. It didn't move up much, and well, it didn't move at all. So it's pretty much where it is. And at that time, obviously, what helps is that if you have a few years of expenses already in the bag, then you really don't have to worry about this time. It'll again happen. Uh, there is less to be scared of, actually. Yes, people are concerned. So one thing I always tell people, don't look at your finances uh, from a mathematical perspective. You should always look at investing, you should always look at finances from a very broad perspective. क्योंकि
Hmm.
अगर आप मैथमेटिकल करते रहे ना, तो बहुत बुरी तरह फंस जाओगे ओवर टाइम.
Hmm.
You'll get into a situation where you are not able to take enough decisions for yourself. So look at it very broadly कि मेरे पास इतना है, इतना मेरा खर्चा होगा, इतना मैं बचा पाऊंगा, इतना और ऐड कर लेंगे तो ठीक है. It'll kind of work. And the second thing that always helps is to keep a margin of safety in all your activities.
Yeah.
So In
And I
here, for
think your
example,
10% assumption is also one of those factors, margins
it
of
is.
errors, कि आप 12, 13, 14 कर रहे हो, but मिलेगा 10, then where do you
Actually,
kind of land up?
actually, अगर आप देखोगे ना Jotpreet, there are a lot of things which are baked in. So number one, you're right. So the return expectation I kept is 10%, number one. The second, which is I would say a bigger assumption, is that I kept that I'm going to stop working.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
which is not the case actually, right? I
Hmm.
am capable, I have the ability, and I have the desire to work for the next 15 more years
Hmm.
at my pace. So I'm okay. अभी 5 सवा 5 लाख रुपए महीने का बन जाता है।
Hmm.
अगर वो 2 लाख रुपए भी हो गया, 1 लाख भी हो गया, no heavens are going to fall on me. I'll
Hmm.
be able to kind of rework my way back to, the same number or even more or even less. It's okay. So that flexibility is also there. So this is again a part of my margin of safety
Hmm. So that
that
you
I
still have
have the
income
skill.
coming. You're not dependent
Ah,
on the corpus
ah.
basic. Yeah. Yeah.
And this word I use at the end that I have the skills, this is very true now for a 40-year-old person, 40 and above person.
Hmm.
Because, if at the age of 40, 45, if we are defining our worth in a job title, saying I am vice president at this company, and we are not able to define it in terms of the skill that you have, then you're probably in trouble.
Hmm.
So just to give you an example, if someone comes to me today and says, I am the president of $100 million company, for example, or
Hmm.
I run a division, which is $100 million of revenue. And a second person comes to me and says that, I created this division, which is at 100 million and kind of grew it up to $100 million. The second person for me is more important than the first person because all the first person has is a title saying that, ये manage कर ले यार, ये $100 million का मेरा एक वो है business division है. But the other person started it, he managed it, he grew it, he took it up to this particular level. So he has the skills while the other guy only has the title with them.
Hmm.
So at the age of 40, don't tell me what your job is. Tell me what the skills you have. I think that's the statement which I kind of park with everyone.
Got it. That is very, very valuable, sir. That is actually something to take home for myself as well. That skills is basically skills is the insurance, is
Skill is the
what I've heard.
insurance. Correct.
Like, and I feel is very true.
Correct.
Got it, sir. Great, sir. I think I'll change some more gears into investing into more direct equity, direct stocks. And so one
Mhm.
thing that I've seen a lot more being discussed and also on my mind is that do you invest internationally? Do you force like see international diversification as one of the levers that one should have? Like in this period that where Indian markets have been muted or downwards, like US markets are at all-time highs. Maybe other markets are as well. So, do you kind of plan that? Do you see that, or is that some evolution that you are now planning? And like, how do you kind of handle geographical diversification and international investing? I think is the question.
Yeah, it's something I want to do. Definitely, it's something I want to do. I only have one stock at the moment. Kind of not the stock, but the platform was forced upon me. So I was trying to do some work with a company called Vested,
Yeah, I'm
which
aware.
is
Yeah.
into international this thing. And they said, आप try करो हमारा platform. मैंने, ठीक है, try कर लेते हैं. Try करने में क्या है? So I put in some $1,000 into that account there, and uh, then obviously, for you to look at US stocks now suddenly, कि, इसमें से अच्छा कौन सा है, this thing. At that time, my eyes went on Alphabet, which was
Hmm.
available at a P ratio of some 18, 19.
Yeah.
So बोले, यार इतना सस्ता कैसे हो गया? मतलब 18 में तो it's like a crazy number ऐसे करके. So I kind of bought some 4 shares of uh, Alphabet. That itself cost me some $700 or something. But now it's, I think, more than
Way
doubled
more. Yeah.
for the last, yeah, 1 year or so. So yeah, so this is something I want to do. And I'm very sure, even in the US markets, there are enough stocks which are excessively undervalued and they can do really well uh, over time. So yeah, I was looking at another one. I didn't buy it, but I was really keen on buying it. There's a company called Esperion, uh, pharma company. So I was really keen on buying. So what happens is uh, anyone who has a cardiovascular this thing. So what's injected in your body is called statins.
Okay.
Uh, so these guys have developed something better than that particular activity, that statin thing, and the numbers were all going up. The the patients were going up, the geographical expansion was there. So I saw it at uh, $1 per
Hmm.
share. That was the this thing, and it went down a bit. It went down to 80 cents, but remarkably, the consensus target for this company was $16.
Oh, wow.
तो यार ये तो मतलब बहुत ही बड़ा अनॉमली लग रहा है कि $16 in this thing. I didn't go for it because I was completely confused by that time. But again, that company went up to like $6 or something in a very quick period. I don't
Okay.
know where it is right now.
Yeah,
So
I mean, like
what?
that is one angle. Like even I've kind of explored these platforms and some companies. Like obviously, you know all the big ones, but I think there's a lot of A alpha and like the research fund in like these smaller companies. So like even in the
Correct.
AI, like the data center build out, like there's a
Yeah.
massive race. So there are a lot of beneficiaries along the value chain that are
Correct.
listed outside. But sorry,
Correct.
I
Correct.
also get your point key that there's a little bit more confusion. Okay, how does their market work? Is it different from ours?
Uh,
What is the
uh,
research process? Like there, I think there's some difference in kind of accounting as well, not a major one, but those kind of have been my concerns as well as to diversify outside. Obviously,
correct.
one way is like you just go and buy the index via the
Uh,
platform.
uh,
But I
uh,
feel the taxation and the legality around it is very complex. I think above $60,000, there's an estate tax. I just got to know.
Correct. Correct.
So
Yes.
yeah, there's a lot more hoops to jump through.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But estate taxes, I think if you die or something, that's when that
okay,
estate
I'm
tax.
not aware. I just recently heard. I have not researched
Uh,
more, but I was like, okay, that is also one limit that you kind of think of. And there's so many like even converting rupees to dollars first is
Correct.
you pay
Correct.
some money there, then you pay brokerage there, and then when you want to withdraw
Correct.
as well.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
But you're looking forward to exploring more, sir, outside India as well.
Yeah, I want to try this out. Definitely outside of India, wala part also. Even I have the mutual funds which I have, the
Hmm.
international mutual funds which I have. I still have it. I didn't sell off anything, thankfully,
Okay.
and it's still there, which is your basic Nasdaq 100 and your
Hmm.
US equity global, that ICS approval and all that stuff. So
Okay. Got it, got it.
not a big number, must be about 35, 40 lakhs out of the 6 crores in this
Sir,
international wallet thing.
you speak of it as such a small number. That is for many of us the
So
entire
as a
portfolio worth.
percentage to as a
I know, sir,
percentage
what
to
you mean. For
3%
your
है.
context and your skill is different. But for maybe somebody listening in, maybe they might this amount might be the entire portfolio right now. So just
No, no.
different
So ये
context.
मैं इसलिए बोलता हूँ जैसे for example gold I have only maybe 20 lakhs.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay, when I say only is from a perspective of the overall portfolio, which is
Hmm.
about 6 CR. So उसमें
Yeah,
से
yeah, yeah,
20
definitely. The
नहीं
scale
करता.
and percentage allocation,
हाँ,
but just
हाँ.
different context for like maybe when you
Yeah,
were
yeah,
there at that
understood.
level allocating. Got
वो
it.
तो एफ में मतलब क्या बाकी आशीष कचोलिया आएगा, विजय केडिया आएगा, व्हेन यू इंटरव्यू हिम, मतलब मैं तो फिर रो रहा हूँ वहां पे कि "अरे यार गरीब हूं मैं एकदम" करके. सो या दैट
Got it, got
हैपेंस. बट इट टेक्स टाइम टू बिल्ड अप. Like,
it.
I always tell people that don't compare yourself to all those Warren Buffett or whoever, right? Because they have something. So the most common thing between anyone who has, let's say, 1,000 crores is that they have either white hair or they have no hair. You
Got it.
know, this is always the case. You can think of anyone who comes into your mind, who you consider as a famous rich investor, and he would neither have hair or would have white hair.
Hmm.
And there's a massive clue because all it says is time is the most important. In fact, you can do the simple exercise. So if you do so basically there's a simple rule, right, which says if you put in 1 rupee, it
Hmm.
becomes 10 rupees in 20 years
Yeah.
at 12%. That's what the rule is. Okay. Now, so basically your output, which is 10 rupees, it's a function of three things.
Correct.
Number one is that 1 rupee, which is the capital that you put in. Number two is the return, which is in our case is 12.2%. And number three is the time, which is 20 years in our case, right? So you can actually manipulate these three elements, which is
Hmm.
capital, time, and return, and that will lead to your wealth. Okay. What I realized is that of all these three, the least important is actually return.
Hmm.
The most important is time.
That is the only
And
exponential in the equation, I think.
and the middle is, you can say, the capital. So if I really want to, and here's the fun part, what is in your control is actually also not the return, because return आप थोड़ी ना कमा रहे हो.
मार्केट्स है।
रिटर्न तो वो कंपनी बना रहा है या म्यूचुअल फंड बना के दे रहा है. सो व्हाट इज इन योर कंट्रोल इज ए द टाइम दैट यू वांट टू गिव इट, एंड सेकेंडली द अमाउंट ऑफ कैपिटल दैट यू कैन एक्चुअली पुट इट. इसमें भी द मोर कंट्रोल इज प्रॉब्ली द टाइम,
हम्म।
because there's a limit to how much you can earn also, right? The amount of capital that you can bring in. So everything is actually uh, tailor-made for your success, because the principles of life is actually telling you that there are only three things that you need to take care of: capital, return, and time. Usme se bhi, thankfully, the thing which is in most control is the one that's going to help you the most also, which is time.
हम्म। गॉट।
So if you give it time, like अभी मैं जो इतना बोल रहा हूँ, ये whatever this 8.5 CR, if I give it 20 years, that 8.5 CR becomes 85 crores.
सर फिर तो
How
आप
do I know this?
उनके
Again, the same
उनके
formula I told
वैल्यू
you.
पे पहुंच जाओगे सर। 40 करोड़ एट 60, आपका टारगेट हिट हो जाएगा। आप
मुझे
वीडियो बना रहे हो बट यू विल योरसेल्फ हिट द टारगेट।
I have one एक मेरा एक लाइफ का ड्रीम है जोतप्रीत, that when I am ready to die, or not ready to die, when I die, just before I die, the last check which I write in my life should bounce. मतलब कौन है वो बेचारा मुझे पता नहीं, बट आई विल राइट अ चेक. हाँ, आपका कितना हुआ? अच्छा, 5 लाख रुपए, ये 5 लाख, ये चेक यार कल इनकैश कर देना. एंड टुडे आई शुड जस्ट कॉन्क ऑफ, दैट विल बी the greatest pleasure of my life, because what this means is that I would have lived a very good life where I would have earned money and I would have spent all that money on myself, and I've lived I mean, I call it living a rich life. If you have
I don't know if you've
earned
read this
money and you
book on
spent that money.
Die with Zero. I think that is the concept. You don't want to
Ha,
be
die
left
with zero.
behind when
Correct.
you've gone. You want to
Exactly.
have enjoyed that or given it away while you were alive, not
Correct.
after.
Correct. Correct. Exactly. So I think that should be the goal. Very difficult to kind of process that in one's head, but in case that happens, then it'll be like really good fun.
Got it, got it. So, and I think I'll just move to the last section of what I had in mind, was like AI and how you're using it. So, sir, one few things you described, like kind of getting some ideas of the company, mind maps, and all that. But beyond that, what are AI use cases, say, are you exploring right now? And then how is it kind of helping you manage, say, your stocks portfolio? Does it kind of help you kind of get some early signals? And like, how are you kind of seeing it being integrated into your workflow day to day?
Yeah, so I'm not doing what you generally listen to, especially in ads that come in the middle of our YouTube videos. Ki मैं AI use करके I am able to find the signal,
Hmm.
2 days before the breakout happens and all that stuff. I don't do any of this stuff. So I generally use AI more as a research assistant.
Hmm.
So one of the things I noticed with AI, Jotpreet, is that when I tell AI to do a readout of anything, so let's say it's the same set of materials which I have and what I give it to AI, okay? So I give it to AI, I tell it to read it and process this information, give me whatever is there. And when I read the same thing,
Hmm.
the thought idea we get is completely different.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay, I'll give
good.
you an example for this. So, for example, I was reading, uh, we can give two examples also, one positive, one negative. So, I was reading Just Dial Limited. Okay,
Hmm.
now Just Dial is a company which is currently at, I think, around 5,000 crores of market cap. And the remarkable thing with Just Dial is that the cash inside that company is 5,500 crores. It's
Okay.
available at a P ratio of around 11 or 10 or something like that. Okay. Uh, so on the face of it, it looks amazing, right? So here's a company where the entire company is available at 5,000 crores, and the cash inside that company is 5,500 crores, which does a profit of around 500 crores per year or something. And it's available at a P ratio of 10. Looks like an Alice in Wonderland situation, right?
Hmm.
So this is what AI gave me, saying that, oh, क्या स्टॉक ढूंढा है सर आपने, बहुत बढ़िया है, ऐसे करके, समथिंग लाइक दैट ही रोट. When I read the damn thing, I said, oh my God, there's a problem with this company.
Hmm.
Why is it so good? So there has to be something, right? And then when I went through it, I realized that Reliance has some 68% shareholding of that company. And I'm pretty sure that the board there, out of which half of the people are from Reliance, they are the ones who are kind of not offering dividend to the shareholders, to the minority shareholders. So they are blocking that. And I think somewhere the objective would be that probably if the price comes down too much, they would do a takeover kind of an offer and they would give a lousy deal to the minority shareholders and they would absorb that entire company and get it delisted.
Hmm.
Delist हो गया वो सारा cash भी ये लोग खा जाएंगे, right? So, this is the thesis which I have in my head. But AI never gave me this thesis.
Hmm.
So
Agreed.
we process that same information in two different ways. I'll give you another example. Inox India.
Hmm.
So I did that same exercise. I gave AI that entire thing. I read it myself. And what I concluded from Inox India at that time is that here's a company which is participating in five or six different mega trends.
Hmm.
So hydrogen being one of those mega trends. There's something else that they are doing, and anyway, they have those cryogenic cylinders that they continue to make and everything. But the way AI processed that information and gave it to me, it's more like product lines. So they
Hmm.
have those product lines which are there, but there's a very big difference because the product line is ये बनाते हैं. But when you think in terms of a mega trend, you know that they are as a company they are participating in something which is bound to be big over the
Hmm.
next 10 years, which
Yeah.
means this company can actually take advantage of all these great things which are happening, those technological improvements which are happening, and probably become a big company in itself. So, this is why I kind of don't leave it to AI for uh, too much of decisioning. I
Yeah,
keep that
exactly.
part to myself, but I use this AI completely as a research assistant. So
Hmm.
please process this information. I'll ask him 20 questions. ये क्या है? ये क्या है? I'll ask him questions like, okay, this is fine. Please tell me whether China is overcapacitized on this particular thing, or is there a massive supply coming from China? What are they doing with their excess? So, I'll go into things which
Yeah.
is very difficult for me to actually figure out.
Hmm.
What's the price of the commodity? What has been the trend of the raw material price over the last 10 years? So, purely use it as मेरे बाजू में मेरा जूनियर है, मैं उसको आई एम गिविंग हिम इंस्ट्रक्शंस कि
हाँ।
यार ये बता ये बता ये
इंटर्न है
बता
आपका।
ये। हाँ,
ये
इंटर्न है
करना ये
मेरा,
करना
हाँ.
है।
I
Yeah,
use it
agreed.
very specifically for that.
No,
Otherwise, I don't use it for any of those other things, those signal analysis, sentiment analysis, or any of those other things. I've not found any use for that, at least, the way I work. So
I think sir, what you told just described, sir, I think is what I also think on AI की that is the research part. It will not take the decision for you and it should never. अगर वो खुद लेके सही डिसीजन लेने लग गया तो फिर we will not be needed at any point of the process.
हाँ, वो needed नहीं, maybe, at some point, artificial intelligence, that intelligence will grow over time, right? So that's
Hmm.
obviously going to be there. तो वो सब होगा. But yes, a lot of people have this fear that AI is going to replace this thing. But from whatever I've seen so far, it's very difficult for AI to replace creativity, for example.
Hmm.
Okay, those examples which I told you of that Sobit, doing those songs and Mike Boyd creating a
Yeah.
separate format, or when I come on my videos, let's say I don't come on the video, and instead of me, let's say there's an AI video which comes in, and me and that AI video is talking about the same thing, exact same words. You would feel a higher level of trust with me as compared to that AI screen, correct?
Yeah.
So all those things are always going to be there, wherein a person trusts work. I see that myself, saying that, hey, this one is working, this one's not working. So how to, kind of analyze that information? There's a massive difference between how we humans do it versus how AI does it.
Always will be. And even more so in, I would say, the finance space where people trust people more than robots or maybe faceless channels and videos. That also is a difference. I also feel I will not trust whatever a AI generated video or a faceless video will say. But great, sir. All right, sir.
Correct, of course.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Any last words from your end to the viewers? any message that you have found over the last few years that you would want to just leave people with?
No, yeah, I think this last 2 years, 1.5 years have been a tough time for most people. I just want to leave a thought with everyone that uh, honestly, कुछ भी नहीं हुआ है because the market has been flat.
Yeah, it's not
You know,
negative.
me and I know many of my age group, who've been there in this equity market for so many years. We faced situations where our wealth has dropped by 15% in a single day. So, कहाँ 15% in a single day versus, you having a flat portfolio over the last whatever 1 year or something. We've really seen what a shock is. But we also know that that 15% was there for barely a day or two. And then the market recovered 7, 8%. And then over the next 2, 3 months, the market had completely recovered all that money. So we've seen it too many times. So I would always suggest people to, be patient and yeah, on this AI thing, the last thing that you said, it's always good to use new technology that comes in.
Hmm.
I've been using it in multiple ways, and yeah, ultimately, life is about living. So, whatever this discussion we had on uh, portfolio and corpus and everything, as long as you can use it up to enhance your lives and lead a very good life, that's what my wishes and my blessings is for everyone.
Amazing, sir. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Jotpreet. Bye bye.